Welcome to Dead Culture Radio. I'm your host, Dead. It's another week, another dollar, another podcast recorded live and then sent to you in the future from your past. Little bit of a departure this week. We are only going to have one guest. It's a very long interview, but it's probably my favorite interview thus far that we've done. Dead 2 is really thoughtful, really enthusiastic about being on the podcast. We met up at a Denny's with her little baby, and we talked about a lot of very, very interesting things. If you're listening to this as it comes out, this is also a little late, and I apologize for that. The week got away from me. So, being a dad of two under one, what do you do? But if you're listening to this in the far-flung future, then this podcast has just been around for hundreds of years, and you don't care when it came out, really, because relativistically it just doesn't matter. Let's get into the interview. Okay, crisis averted. I have done a wonderful job. I'm Dead. I'm here with Dead 2 and Dead 2's baby. Dead 2's baby, how are you feeling? You were just talking so much, now you're not going to talk to me?
I changed the scenery. There's fruit, so less talking because fruit.
I'm also a fruit baby, thank you. She's so interested in the fruit. Okay, once more, how are you feeling?
I am feeling good. Now distracted by the selection of baby wanting fruit.
So before my great crisis, my great and egregious failure, I was asking about how, oh man, I had like a whole speech. I don't want to say it again. I'm just going to ask about something else. You know what? Here, why don't you talk about what I said earlier, and you can explain it in a way that it would make sense for the audience.
Okay. All right, I'll do my best. Let's see. You were saying that you have many conflicting thoughts about the community that you are a part of, with many people who are, I believe you said, alternative and queer. I hope I got the words right.
Atheist and queer.
Atheist, thank you. And you were wondering how I felt about that in the Christian community.
Right.
Okay. And let's see. I do wish that our worlds were mingling more frequently, because I feel really, really heartbroken for all the people who think I'm judged and I can't be anywhere near a church, or it's scary to them. They met people who were really unchristian to them, and I'm really sad about that. And I think these people have another perspective that I haven't seen. Ooh, now we're going for the windscreen again. And
previously on an unreleased portion of Dead Culture Radio, the baby stole the microphone windscreen.
Yes. And then, babies and trains of thought. I think everybody could benefit from that other point of view, that I haven't had as much opportunity to be around. And the times that I have, I've been like, wow, there's a whole nother perspective and worldview. And those people could really benefit also from being able to not be afraid and chased away from the church and from all of the wonderful... Yeah, there we got a baby talking.
Yeah, there we go. That picked up.
Benefits. All of the blessings that could be a part of their lives if people weren't jerks and would treat each other as Jesus calls us to.
speaking of the benefits, I've also been, so I was talking earlier about how I've been reading a lot about religion, basically, because I'm writing about religion right now. And Noah Feldman is the author of the book that I'm reading right now. He's a Jewish professor, and he talks about spiritual isolation, basically, right? And the way I have experienced spiritual isolation is especially when someone is raised in a religion and then experiences something like you're describing that turns them away from the religion, that makes them feel out of place, rejected, uncomfortable, at odds, whatever. They become agnostic or atheist or whatever, afloat. And then they lose this sense of purpose, this Nietzschean God is dead and we have killed him sort of feeling, what that Nietzsche describes, where like you need to build you need to do all this like rigorous work to build up a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, or else you start turning to nihilistic thoughts and we get lots of depression and lots of like, why am I even here? What are we even doing? Blah, 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 blah. And I guess my question is, have you ever experienced spiritual isolation? And the second part of my question, what do you think, what is your experience of the divine that you think fends that away?
So, not, I believe, as much as others have, but I've had tastes of, desolation or crisis or whatever you would call it, hopelessness, and since I was not chased away from the faith, I was able to run back to it and to find the peace of being held in a spiritual sense, the being in the presence of in adoration, being in the presence of Jesus, and knowing that I'm held spiritually up by God the Father, and knowing that I have Mary as our mother, and for me, I've experienced it in a sense of being held, no matter what. There's always that sense of being held, even when I didn't know, like, what is hope, even. And then I found that there is a title of Mary, our mother, under the title of Our Lady of Hope, just for that purpose. And, yeah.
You talk about, and I wonder if part of it is that there are people who can, or who learn to get in touch with God, who learn to get in touch with, like you're talking about Mary, you're talking about Jesus, you're talking about, the Holy Spirit and stuff, these divine things. And I wonder if when people look instead to other human beings in that crisis, that opens up a vulnerability for those other human beings to fail them, and they project that onto the divine. Do you feel like that at all?
Yeah. Yes. Amen. I've heard that in many of these heartbreaking stories that from the father wound, they even give it a title because it's so common to, that's... even anyone can do that on a small scale. If you ask yourself, why are you frustrated with this person? You're putting too much on that person, honestly. That's why the people closest to us can hurt us the most, if we let them. And yeah, that can be a huge struggle for anybody.
Yeah, I think of parents especially. I think parents, above anything else, the job of a parent is to love and protect their children. But the you could say, for like a priest, we call the priest the father. And they kind of take on that responsibility when they take on that role. And of course, we'll do this again. You're Catholic, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I've had people on the podcast and other people in my life who are just, they are really turned off by Catholics because of all of the child abuse by priests, and they just see the entire institution of Catholicism as corrupt and scary. Because of that, they don't want their children near it. They don't want to be part of it. They don't trust it. How do you reconcile your obvious love and connection with the divine with the terrestrial people, physical institution that you're a part of in your faith?
Well, it's a hospital for sinners, and that goes all the way up the scale, unfortunately, to even the fathers of the church. There's been some really bad, sad, scary men in the church. And yet that is only the tip. That's only a few of the broken people who you find in any institution. You find them in schools and government and any institution you come across. But the church is held to a higher standard, and as they should be better. And it's heartbreaking that they aren't.
It makes me think of politicians as public servants. That's what we call them, public servants, and yet politicians are. How would you describe them? Would you describe them as public servants? Do they act like public servants most of the time?
Not the ones that are front and center in the media, right. For sure. I'm sure there are a lot of quiet politicians that are just doing their job and doing a great job, but the ones that we see on TV sure look like children sometimes.
And I feel like the ones we see on TV too, they put themselves out there. There's a monetary gain to that. When you're famous, you start getting people to pay you to be places and say stuff. You start talking in colleges and stuff. And what is that? I'm just picking on Hillary Clinton just for a second, but I saw some ridiculous figure, millions of dollars that she got to speak somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can kind of imagine that, but it's still mind-blowing. Like, that's a ton of money, and the value that we put in listening to one person's opinion is astonishing.
I wish we could be getting paid millions for doing this podcast right now. I really do. Get on that Patreon, subscribe, and so do the $1 million tier. If someone does the $1 million tier on my Patreon for this episode, you can get half of that.
Oh, that would be very generous of you.
A lot of baby food and diapers and such. How many children do you have?
6 here on Earth.
Right. So we were talking about this earlier too. You've lost a couple of pregnancies too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 2 of them. Our first child, Alicia, back in 2013, and then more to the recent. It's hard to count the number of children, including them, when I'm so used to keep track of the ones that I still am to be keeping alive here on this beautiful planet of ours. But let's see, that makes 7 was Leto in 23. They both have a 3 in them anyway.
And I remember dealing with just the fear of that when my spouse and I were pregnant. We had some trialsome pregnancy issues. And I remember for a while it was like every day, every day I'm worried about it, and I just can't imagine it actually happening and experiencing that loss, and even when they're alive, when your kids are in front of you and you see their little faces, you're like, oh my God, please don't fall off the sofa and break your neck or something. But, to lose them even before they, even before that, before you get to know them or anything, has to be just incredibly painful.
And yes, I had not even been introduced to the concept that you could lose a child before they were even born. Nobody in my life talked about it. It was a huge, huge shock because Alicia was our first, and we were just going in for a routine checkup, and why would we think anything of that? Why do they even have these checkups, we thought to ourselves. And to be told that we can't find the little heartbeat, so we'll just go for a ultrasound instead of a routine check. And they didn't say anything to us about what we found out. Wow, he wasn't growing, and it was a huge shock. I alluded earlier to the looking for hope, because when we put our hopes in having that child, and to have that taken away unexpectedly was just completely unexpected. I guess things would have been a lot more difficult if I didn't have my faith to go back to at that point.
I think, one question, and I know it's been just talked about to death when it comes to faith, but, there's always this constant debate about why God lets bad things happen. And there's like a million answers to it. But in a situation like that, that hopelessness, and to keep faith in God, and to put your trust in Him still, what did you find your answer was to, why did God permit that to happen? If He did, what was your understanding of that?
I think I'm only still at the tip of the understanding of it, but the beginnings that I've gleaned are really, I grew as a person. I grew to have more solidarity to other women in hard situations. I felt a connected motherhood to everybody who has lost or been forced to lose, if they felt that they were so backed into a corner that they had to choose to abort their child. Because I don't think anybody makes that decision without feeling like they're forced, and it's a loss as well. And I grew to be able to connect with those people and understand them. I hope all of this baby chatter is being picked up by the mic as well.
It's the perfect subject to have baby chatter for.
It is. And we've always had our own little prayer warrior to pray for our family, and to point our eyes up towards heaven, because we were too focused on the things of this earth, and that's just the tip. The understanding and unraveling of the redemptive suffering involved, and that has helped with my growth as a person as well.
that reminds me of so many different things. I don't even know where to go. You mentioned abortion. Abortion's always been really difficult for me. I consider myself a leftist, and the leftist inertia, the leftist ontology, is to be pro-life, right? Or I'm sorry, pro-choice, backwards. Life is a good thing, so I think of myself as pro-life, but no, to be pro-choice. And so for me too, it always has been obvious that it's a hard thing, like you said. I've talked to some people who just think, just flippantly, and they don't have an experience with it, obviously, because they wouldn't speak so flippantly of it if they did. But they believe very strongly in the pro-choice initiative, right? And, having the gender parts that I have never felt like it was my place to judge, and so that's kind of where the choice comes from. It's like, well, it's other people's thing, right? It's other people's choice. However, I always knew that as a father, if my baby were to be aborted, it would be the same to me as losing a child. And that's just I've always wanted to be a father. I've always felt a connection to my children before they existed. And so, and that particular talking point as a leftist has always been strugglesome for me. And and besides changing people's minds, because, how do you, I know you've done some activism for the pro-life movement, correct?
Yep. We have primarily I've tried to reach out with offers of help, and many people wouldn't feel so backed into that corner if they had the father behind them, the community behind them, the resources, the knowledge of what's even happening. So primarily, yeah, I've done that when I had fewer children of my own to take my activities. Trying to reach out a helping hand for them. And otherwise trying to provide education to the community. How many people know that a baby's heart starts beating at 10 weeks old? And how many people know that they're even pregnant at that point? Some of them don't, many. For people who are aware and are able to go in for that first doctor checkup, they can hear their baby's heart beating. And then, like in my case, they can go in for their second doctor's appointment and find out that it's stopped.
Yeah, not hear it.
Yep.
I remember the first time I heard my son's heartbeat. Oh my God, I wept like a baby. I was like on the floor. I was
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a natural impulse.
And then when my daughters, then it was the second time, I was like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. You'd heard it quite a few times at that point, right?
Yep. I was still very relieved.
I always feel like I would like to record their hearts beating, but then in a clinical setting, it becomes awkward. Like, can I pull my phone out and make a recording? And then never did it. Passing moments.
Yeah. I wasn't carrying this recorder that we're recording on right now with me. Now I carry it everywhere in case I find someone who wants to do an interview. But I always, was like, I should bring it. We're going to listen to the heartbeat, and it would be very easy to just do it right there, But going back to abortion just for one more little thing, when I'm in a place where leftists feel safe to talk about it, without, let's say, like a pro-life person there, I feel like, regardless of any argument, right? Regardless of like, oh, when does life begin? Where does this? Blah, 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 blah. Let's pick an arbitrary point where it's okay or not okay. The one thing that I like to remind people of is that you're not going to change a pro-life person's mind because they think that babies are being killed. If you thought babies were being killed, if you're understanding, if you had all the information and your processing of that information told you this is the death of a child, that was your interpretation, how would you feel, unless you were a sociopath, you would feel that you had to protect that life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Children know it instinctively. Every time they hear about it, that's their reaction. Unless they're a 10-month-old singer, and then losing my thoughts.
Baby songs will do that.
Yes. The song of the baby will call every mind to listen. Yeah. The thought is gone. Would you rephrase the question?
Sure. I'm actually going to move on because I have several other thoughts here. I don't think I had a question either. So I think that might have been the problem. I think I just said something and then gave you the microphone.
Fair.
I remember, too, when we're talking about like this spiritual isolation and the nihilism and the differing understandings of like the purpose of life, because like having children, and I've always felt this way, like having children, building a future for, like, being part of building a future for humanity, taking what I know and believe and passing that on to the next generation is the purpose of life. I mean, what would you say? Would you agree, disagree?
Well, I guess it depends on your perspective of what future you're building. I would shift it a little bit into building a future for all of us as God's children together in heaven and on the second coming on the new earth. And so kind of with that perspective, more of a spiritual building.
Right. But I was talking to someone after my first child was born, and they are like a very queer, very leftist person. And, I was showing them a picture of my son, and they said, "Nice, congratulations. I mean, because of what I believe, I'm against anyone procreating ever, but, I'm sure it's nice for you."
What a perspective.
I know. But I feel like there's so much misanthropy, especially today. There's so much misanthropy, there's so much nihilism. It's just like, people are bad. The earth would be better without people in it. And I've felt that way. People do a lot of bad stuff. We've mismanaged the earth pretty demonstrably. That's the word I'm looking for. We pretty demonstrably mismanaged the earth. If God made us stewards of the earth, then I'm hoping that Aragorn will come along soon and take stewardship back.
I love the analogy. Yes, that is true. I mean, isn't that the whole point of a lot of the desert wanderings and then the prophets of they did bad and then they tried harder, but they still did bad. Mm-hmm. And we still do that. Mm-hmm. And every month I say I'm going to try harder, and I still do bad. Mm-hmm. It's a universal.
I feel like the aspiration to go off the grid, is everyone's dream. How do you feel about going off the grid? Do you want off the grid life?
That would be fun. I would have a struggle with my other half, who would not want to be off the grid because that would not include electricity and such beautiful modern conveniences. But I would like to maybe do a hybrid approach. Less about worrying about the government watching as some off-the-gridders, and more about doing things simpler and more naturally. like chickens would be lovely. I would be permitted to have chickens at my current residence, but then I discovered that they're incompatible with a large family and a full-time job. So that's
Just a bunch of little feathery kids.
yeah. I said, well, maybe I'll put that one off until we're out of diapers.
But this being off the grid, what was my point with that? I don't know either. I didn't. I should have made my point faster. Yeah, chickens would be rad though. I agree.
A cow would be great.
Yeah.
I'm not permitted a cow at my current residence. Or perhaps some goats would be great. Yeah. But
being off the grid. Cows are really great huggers. Chickens, grid. What was I thinking about with the grid? I'm just gonna look at my thing. I'm gonna move on. Oh, I still don't remember.
I feel like you were just working hard to trigger the snort laughter.
I'm thinking so hard. Sometimes for me, it's like little things. Like, I don't want clothes with logos on them.
I don't want clothes that melt to your skin if you're in a fire.
That's not a metric I've ever measured clothes by. What is this something you think about?
Yes, the polyester clothing that will melt to your skin and cause the burning to be worse.
Man, I love polyester too. It's so comfortable. Why?
I think I've read too much fire safety materials that put out by various fire departments that give the kids candy.
Does the fire department tell you not to wear polyester because it makes the burns worse?
I believe that was my source, but don't quote me on it.
That's insane. I've never thought. Now I want to be a firefighter and just go around being the anti-polyester fireman that goes to schools and be like, hey kids, don't wear polyester. It's dangerous.
It's kind of like modern furniture as well. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It burns super hot and super quickly, and antique furniture looks better and doesn't burn as quickly.
Yeah. Manufactured obsolescence, I think, is the bane of my existence.
Yeah, that would be agreeable. Yeah, I'm always looking for, like, why am I buying the more expensive products? Well, they're closer to the natural and longer-lasting items that they used to make. Like, even in the small scale, you know how hard it is to find a real boar hair hairbrush that doesn't cost $100?
No, because my mom gave me one.
Oh, you are fortunate.
And about a week later, I shaved my head.
How did she feel about that?
Oh, she hates when I shave my head. I've done it like 4 times, and it gives her an aneurysm every time.
I asked my boys to shave their heads, and they said no.
Yeah?
It would just mean fewer haircuts because it would take longer to grow back.
You don't think they look like little Nazi skinheads?
I don't know, because I haven't gotten to do it. They said no.
I guess in your mind's eye, you're not worried about them looking like little Nazi skinheads?
I would leave the little bit of baby fuzz.
See, I did that. I literally kept a 1/4 inch so that my mom wouldn't call me a skinhead, and she still called me a skinhead.
Oh, but it's so nice to leave that baby fuzz. My brother used to do that, and I would try to pet his head all the time, and he didn't like that part.
I love being pet on the head when I have it. I don't like being pet on the head when my hair's this length, but when I have the fuzz, it feels great.
Yeah, I think it was because it was his big sister. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
Who wants their big sister to pet their head?
I would have no idea. I'm an only child.
Yep. I don't have any big siblings, so I just made that metric up.
You got to be the bully the whole time growing up?
Yep. That's the point of the oldest child, right?
Did he eventually get bigger than you, though?
No.
You got a short king little brother?
He is about a centimeter shorter than me.
So you're equivalent in size.
Yes. We try this every time we get together. He's like, I grew. I'm like, no, we stopped growing. We're adults.
He didn't like go to the gym. He's not like a gym bro just to like make sure that you can't mess with him.
I don't think so. He's just busy.
You'd know if he was.
Yeah.
You know gym bros.
Share about it. Yeah, that's right. I forget. I don't.
Their arms don't go all the way down to their sides.
I don't know a lot of gym bros.
No. Man, I went to the mosque, the other day.
That's right.
And everyone there was African basically. Then there was like 3-4 Arabs, and I was waiting in the opening part where you leave your shoes, and people were like kind of filtering in and saying assalamu alaikum, to me. And I forget what the response is. That means peace also be unto you. It's like Allah. I don't remember. I'm not gonna. But then I was like watching, and this white guy starts coming up.
Okay.
This white guy, and he looks like an ROTC nerd. He's like this short, buff, like buzzed blonde. I mean, you talk about skinhead. He had the glasses and everything, and I was so flabbergasted of what the rest of him looked like. I didn't realize until he was taking off his shoes, and he comes in and he says assalamu alaikum to me. He doesn't say, hey, what's up? He does the Arab thing. He does the Arabic phrase. And then I notice when he takes off his shoes, he's wearing gigantic cowboy boots.
That seems appropriate.
And he seemed like, I don't know. I wanted to know where this guy converted to Islam, or maybe he's from just a white Muslim family, but he just looked like the kind of guy who had some experience somewhere, and said like, I'm a Muslim now.
He would have a fascinating story, probably.
He was the only other white person in the building. It was crazy. There was like 30 people all praying in a line, and just like black. One white guy with blonde hair. It was just wild. But yeah, he was a short king who looked like a gym bro. That was the point of my story.
Good story.
Thanks. I appreciate your input.
I wasn't sure if I should say bro at the end of...
Why do you homeschool your kids?
Well, it's easier than having to take them places. They will be able to be kids for longer. We know what they're learning. It's a lot of fun. I love to give spontaneous instruction lessons on whatever's on my mind, and it counts as school. And so they have been complimented on their large vocabularies, and let's see, fun, easier.
Get to raise geniuses.
We get to know what they're learning and be a part of it. It's kind of the domestic church. Ideally, everybody would be able to. It's not possible for some personality types and budget types and a whole spectrum of things like that. But for those who are able to, it's the ideal, really. Where are you going?
Do they get to do any activities like sports or anything where they get a little more socialized?
Yeah, we were really intentional.
Intentional. I love it.
Yes, this is now proper English. We were very intentional.
Did it again.
Now I can't say the word anymore. It's forever. Okay, moving on. About getting them in troop life, so focused on making friends, doing various service projects or learning activities and skills. And the troop life has the outdoors component, and so all of them who are old enough are able to be in a troop, and then they each pick a summer sport. And I said they have to be in swimming lessons whether they want to or not, because I can't swim, and so I can't save them. So it's all very practical.
You can't swim?
No, and I'm somewhat frightened of this.
The waitress is going to steal your baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal a baby.
That's all right. We let people borrow her every once in a while.
guys, I'm sorry that I'm interrupting, but would it be okay to charge you now since I'm leaving?
Yeah.
I just need to scan this.
Oh my god.
I saw you were doing a podcast or something. I didn't want to interrupt.
Some people see this device and they have no idea what it is.
It has the appearance of a lucky rabbit's foot on top of a very old flip phone before they flipped.
Before they flipped. Like a Nokia, like a brick phone?
Yeah. Yeah, the brick phones, that one.
My stepsister, I had a lucky rabbit's foot one time, and my stepsister gave me this giant spiel about how, I was like mutilated a poor rabbit just so I could accessorize, And then she grew up and married a hunter, and her entire Facebook is just full of her holding deer carcasses up like she's a special.
That's a conversion.
Yeah.
It does remind me of my rabbit breeding sister, who said that we could not eat the rabbits while I was still living at home with the family, and then after I moved away, suddenly they were eating the rabbits.
They didn't want you to have rabbits too.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt, but it's okay. I've had it now, but I just have to go visit to get it.
I mean, what do you breed rabbits for? They don't lay eggs. I feel like if you don't eat rabbits and you breed rabbits, they're just for petting.
Yes, some of them were sold for pets, and otherwise for showing. And showing is where you, to my understanding, you train the rabbit to sit very still in a box so that everybody can say, yes, this is a marvelous rabbit.
I'm going to do that to my son. I need to train him to sit very still in a box so people can say, what a marvelous son.
Something about the nature of rabbits in freezing versus the nature of suns.
Well, I feel like I guess they have pageants, child pageants, which is to me nightmarish.
Yes, this also seems to be a kind of against the nature of childhood.
Yeah.
Yep.
You talk about kids being kids longer. I think you're gonna not be a kid very long if you're getting all costumed up, and I don't know. It seems creepy to me.
I concur.
Yeah. How do you feel about dolls, like porcelain dolls?
That's interesting. I was given a collection of porcelain dolls throughout my childhood and by my godfather, and I found them to be very pretty, and I could decorate the shelves with them, and so I find them nice. And yet, I don't know, without having been gifted them, if I would have sought them out myself.
Have you ever had someone see your doll collection and get really freaked out?
No.
No? Apparently you've never shown me your doll collection.
That's probably true.
I did not know you had a doll collection, so yeah. I've been over to your house a few times, and you kept the doll collection hidden from me.
Yeah, it's not real prominent, so you're welcome.
Thank you. You're very considerate with your doll collection, not giving people nightmares. What was the last movie that troubled you, that disturbed you? I didn't have to give you nightmares, but was nightmare fuel for you? What really spooked you out?
That's a hard one, because I tend to pre-screen movies so that they don't tend to trouble me. Yeah. Okay, way back in high school, we had a hobby of watching the thrillers where people die and stuff. So, yeah, if I dig through my memories way back, there was The Descent. I thought about that one for years. They go underground, and there's people have lived down there so long they've evolved to be sightless and cannibals, and I don't know if they're even considered people. That's not the point of the movie. You're not supposed to think about the biology of the murderous things under the ground that are somewhat human. you're just supposed to be scared,
Right.
and it worked.
The worst ones for me, because I also don't dig a lot of scary movies. I'm just not into it. I don't like body horror. I don't like torture porn, you know? Like, actually, I saw the Saw movies because they were on cable one time, and it was it was all the censored ones. So I was able to enjoy, like, the plot and, like, the actual thrill of it without being subjected to just, like, the icky stuff.
That would have appealed to me back in the times when we were watching the thrillers because, yeah, we were looking for the you can't see what it is sort of plot lines, the unknown suspense. Rather. A few times we accidentally crossed the line into the gross ones, and it's like, yeah, that why?
Yeah, why? Just to feel something, I think. I think people are numb and they want to feel stuff.
Okay, that would be a fair point. I felt less about those ones other than just sick to my stomach. I can remember that much.
If you don't like being sick to your stomach, what the heck?
What? Oh, if that's the feeling they're going for, they could just ride a roller coaster.
I don't know what it is about me, but for me, it's Aliens. The two movies that disturbed me the deepest were Independence Day. That movie gave me nightmares forever. And, like, specifically, like, the White House blowing up, you know, when they first show up and there's just these giant saucers in the sky and they just blow stuff up. Nightmares. Decades.
Interesting.
Decades of alien invasion, everyone's dying, nightmares. And the other one, very similar, was War of the Worlds. I just thought was an extremely disturbing movie.
This is fascinating to see the differences in the way different people's minds work because I was definitely like, oh, those ones are kind of boring. Sorry.
War of the Worlds was boring?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about, like, total world destruction. To me is just like, oh, okay, then we all get to go to heaven.
It wasn't so much. I mean, for Independence Day for sure, but for in War of the Worlds specifically, the one scene that always lives rent free in my head. All the cars don't work, right? Because the aliens do like an EMP or whatever, and none of the cars work. And the main guy, Tom Cruise, I think he's a mechanic, so he gets it to work somehow. He replaces something, yada yada yada. Movie magic. And they're driving this minivan, and they come. It's night and it's raining, and they come through a town. And everyone's outside, right? Or they see the car and everyone's freaking out and they go outside. And I just remember everyone's crowding around the van trying to get in the one working vehicle because they want it. And they're just being ugly. And like it's like they're not going to... It's so pointless. They're not going to get it, you know? And eventually Tom Cruise is just like, all right, let's get out of the van. This is untenable. I'm not going to kill all these people driving through them. It's a minivan. It's not going to work anyway. It's not a monster truck. And they leave it. And so they're leaving. They're walking on foot. Hopelessness, destitution. They look back, and people are killing each other over the van. So it wasn't even the aliens. It was this, in a crisis, people turning into monsters with each other that it just sickened me to my core.
Yep. Exactly. The desperation of people. Don't know why it didn't stick in my mind, because I know that I watched it at some point. But that animal desperation, though, I guess, has always made me feel rather detached of just knowing that people are desperate, and desperate situations, they will fall to their animal instincts, their lower brain functioning. Kind of like the detachment of watching the National Geographic, and they show you the sweet baby deer that is going to get eaten by the cheetah,
right?
And just knowing that is underneath a desperate person, and then hopefully we can retain our higher brain functioning and not fall to that. But maybe that's what's meant to be disturbing about that form of art, is seeing that some people will fall.
And it depends on like your values too. And I think the community values, because like you look at videos of Gaza right now, I don't see people tearing each other apart in Gaza. It's a lot of like helping each other and the community and everything. And they have a very religious. Islam is all about mutual aid and stuff. And so they mostly becomes like suicidal bombing aggression. People join Hamas sometimes, and they aim their aggression outwards. But I don't really see any cannibalistic, eating of your own community sort of violence over there. So I just wonder if culture has something to do with that. Where do you go first in a how do you deal with a crisis like that?
Yep. Yeah. Are you isolated with no support and you turn to the lower brain functioning, or do you have the culture to support you, the community? Yeah, that's another beautiful thing about the troop life, tying it like you have a community built, and it's healthy for our brains. It keeps us in our human sides of our brains.
Right. You kind of touched on like a trans-materialist idea too. I feel like when your mind is like on heaven, you fear death less, right? And so it's easier for you to act selflessly. It's easier for you to act thoughtfully, because the rabid fear of death doesn't maybe dig into you quite so much.
Yeah, that's true. The stories of the martyrs, they had no fear in the face of death. They knew in their time periods that the persecution was real and that the martyrdom was a possibility, and they had a stronger faith perhaps because of it, and they were able to face it with the courage of knowing their destiny. As martyrs, you face the trials on earth, and then you are able to be closer to God and move on to heaven.
I've seen that too. I saw specifically like this interview, I'll also call it footage, of I think he was 14, boy, whole family died in Gaza in an airstrike. And they asked him if he was sad or if he was hopeless or whatever, and he said, nope, they're in heaven, and now I have nothing keeping me on this world, so I can go be a martyr and do what's right, and it's not going to bother me. That's a very dark take on the concept. A 14-year-old shouldn't feel like he has no hope and no reason for living and martyr himself with violence. But that the power of the faith there turns that situation to that thinking rather than again, that kind of cannibalistic survival, visceral survival thing. I have never, well, not never, I have at points in my life believed in heaven, but I've also had a long portion of my life where I was just kind of suicidal. And so my thing with movies is the zombie apocalypse. I think the zombie apocalypse movies are stupid because if there was a zombie apocalypse and everything sucked, I would just kill myself.
Yeah, I don't have a good outlook for myself surviving based on the skills that the people who survive zombie apocalypses need. But it's not a huge concern. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the government takeover apocalypse, the nuclear apocalypse. These are fun things to watch in the media and the books and such, but when I think reality, my position in those stories would be the one of the graves.
Be like one of the first.
Yep. And I'm like, well, that's okay.
Do you think at all that you would be called? So like for me, it would be, all right, the world has turned to absolute suffering, and I don't want to suffer anymore. Do you think at all you would be called to try and survive, like to see it like as a trial? You know, like a trial from God, to be like, oh, I have to make something of this. I have to try and survive. I have to try and help people. Yada yada yada.
Well, definitely. If I was given the gift of life, it would have been by a miracle, by some would call an accident, someone would call luck, rather than skill. And so I would be called to do my utmost to help in the ways that I was able to, given the situation. Sometimes I imagine, like, gee, could I use my terrible hand sewing skills to help somebody close a wound? Would that even be possible? I don't know. We wouldn't know till we were in that situation. But I mean, a year and a half ago, I was tested and determined that I do fairly well in a crisis, able to keep a pretty cool head and do what needs to be done. But
was that your car crash?
Yeah. The car crash that the whole family rolled over and over across the interstate, and
on Christmas, right?
Yeah, Christmas Eve. And so, man, I remember thinking these beautiful people who are helping us are giving up their Christmases to help
Right.
us. And so I was even double thankful to them for that, because otherwise, like, my husband was a little bit injured with a head wound and a fracture of his neck, which ended up being the biggest trial for our family. He's the homemaker, takes care of the children, and the having him down for the count, doing a lot of recovery and resting, and I took on the two jobs. As I said, I was still trying to do software engineering, but then I was also being the homemaker at the same time.
You were getting the in-laws to help, which was its own trial.
Yeah, different families have different expectations, and when everybody has a high stress level, it can really cause some misunderstandings. And
You're being so diplomatic. It's like they're going to listen to this podcast, and they're definitely not.
yeah, but I try to be charitable of people all the time, and mostly because in a stressful situation, I'm not good at being socially pleasant. Mm-hmm. But I was pretty good at calling the right numbers to get our smashed up van taken care of and find a new van, mostly through just at that point the community comes in. It's really back to the community. They help you, and everybody has their own skills. Like, my cousin's like, hey, I'm a car salesman. Would you like to buy a car?
I see you're in a crisis. Would you like to pay me?
Like, the car lot is closed on Christmas Eve, but we could open for you.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yes, so just everybody has their skills. They might not think, I'm a car salesman, I can help in a crisis. Of course, the doctors and everything, but there's like the large family with the passenger van. Their skill in helping with the crisis is the large size shelter that they had on the side of the road, and the snacks that they inevitably kept in their vehicle, and everybody has something to offer. It's beautiful.
I think in those situations too, about people who are so disconnected from community, and how damaged their trust must be that they can't. I've talked to some people who, like, it's obvious that they interact with other people at a level of complete surface level, almost deceptive, where it's like you're talking to them and they are putting on a mask. You know, it's like the way they're talking to you is not, it's not connecting your personhood to their personhood. They are interacting with you in a very guarded way, and that's something they had to learn to do because they probably grew up and nobody was trustworthy, you know. And then as an adult, they can't open themselves up to true help, you know. They can't open themselves up to that space that they can crawl out of whatever hardship they're in, you know. And they just, this is my life now, I suffer because that's what my own power can keep me in, you know. And people are just like, well, I can stay alive in this lane by myself without anyone's help. And it's way down there, you know. It's a very bad place to be, I think.
Yeah, amen. It's really sad. And I always think, well, gee, what can a person even say to help them?
Mm-hmm.
Just try to be as open. Actually, it's a situation where if they're willing to stop and talk, even with a mask on, it's less about what I have to say to them and more how many people stop and listen to them. Yeah. And I like to collect stories. If people are open enough to actually, hey, this person's listening to me and share, hopefully in some small way that we can help them to start bridging the gap and coming back to the culture and the community. They need something. We have to live in community. Even the hermits have a community.
I hope that's what this podcast will eventually kind of culminate in, is just some way to get my perspective and your perspective and their perspective and his perspective and her perspective just kind of intermingling again, you know? Get out of our echo chambers. Hello, Philomena. Yes, you're a very pretty singer. Well, I think we're going to call it there. Any last words?
She's got all the words. It is the singing time of the night. She says it all.
And to you as well. And to all an night. Yeah, really, really thoughtful guest, really thoughtful interview. I've been thinking about it all week, probably a little distracted by it, which is another reason why this episode is late. Going forward with the podcast, speaking of which, I may switch to an every other week schedule for several reasons. Looking for more quality interviews, giving ourselves more time to set up and have thoughtful conversations is one. Life stuff, being dad, trying to keep my house in order and my lawn mowed and all that, is another. And then thirdly, if episodes are going to continue to trend towards this length, my podcast hosting service would not support me lengthwise enough to release weekly. So I might go to every other week, which would allow the episodes to be about an hour and a half long at most. And if there is a short episode or something, I might release some extra content. We'll see. But yeah, just keep an eye out for that moving forward. If a week goes by without an episode, I'll try to announce that on the social media platforms where we exist. So, with that said, we're gonna head out for the week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for thinking about stuff. Thank you so much for continuing to exist. Check out the Patreon page, Dead Culture Radio. We are here. We are queer. We are thinking about our existence in a complex way. And good night. Smooches. Mwah, 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 mwah. I hope your dreams are full of pretty butterflies.